G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel, welcome if you're new. It is currently Sunday, August 20, and it's almost 8 o'clock at night, and this is going to be very relaxed because it is raining. It's supposed to be hurricaning outside, but I think it was downgraded to a tropical storm, whatever the difference is. I actually was describing what I found out was a cyclone to Steve the other day, which apparently is a little different to a hurricane. I'm not quite sure. In my mind, it's all very Wizard of Oz and I'm about to go over the rainbows. It is what it is. Actually, for those of you who don't know, this is going to be such a random video. I have to tell you what's going on and then I'll get into my story time, right? Okay, so this is a real-time video. Actually, I made this video for a completely different reason. And I was going to do a whole conversation on it, but then the more that I thought about it and then the way that today unfolded, I actually figured, you know what? I think I'm just going to let you watch all of this come together for the reason I made it, and then we'll just chat about everything else I've got going on. Because I've got a pretty big, kind of exciting bunch of things happening that I wanted to talk about. So this is my 5-year Hobonichi, and I'm doing this entirely real time for you today because I am a part of the problem. I am a part of the problem, much like many content creators, and it's not a problem we kind of choose to create, but we're just a part of it anyway. When we clip things together and when we speed through things and then when we edit out all the in-between things where we're thinking or we're choosing or we're planning or prepping, we tend to set this very unrealistic expectation about what people can actually achieve in a certain time frame. And then probably the biggest facade of all, not the biggest facade, like people get it. When you think about it, people know it, right? But then sometimes you just don't think about it and you get a little like, you need a reminder. If we're doing content creation based on art and journaling because it's our job, like for some of us it is our job, that is even more unrealistic because some of us are doing it like 9 to 5. So you always have to kind of factor these variables in when you think about the content that you're consuming, but sometimes we just don't do that. And so I wanted you to see very real time how long it takes me to do something as simple as write the entry in my 5-year journal and do a little stamp and illustration piece off to the side. It is probably one of the most simple, like labor-free kind of experiences in my art journals, and it takes 27 minutes. And even then, I think I cut out a transition where I was searching for something, and I also had pre-planned the little outfit that I was wearing because I wanted to get it right from a photo and I didn't want to have my phone out while I was doing it. So even that I kind of cut out, which would have added another 10 minutes. So just wanted to let you know, it's not a slight against anyone who does curated content. I think there's a time and a place for everything, but I also just want to give you that reminder. Every now and again I do this in a bunch of different ways. Usually I try to tell you like, oh, this took 4 hours, but it's only a 15-minute video or something. I try and get that in there, but I wanted to give you a good visual today, just on real time. This is how it goes. Live streams are a good way to see that as well. But that's kind of why I made the video. So it is going to be very real time. It's going to be really slow, long, boring, and depressing. Hopefully you're here for some chat as well, because this is what I love to do as well. I love to chat with you, and today has been a day girl. So if you don't know, I live in sunny Southern California, and I live kind of close to Disneyland. I live in like a downtown area. So like, I mean, honestly, it's not resort town. You would think that if you live close to a theme park, it's kind of resort town. It's really not. It's just Orange County. But for that reason, I think like nothing bad can ever happen here. In my mind, I always think like, well, I used to think nothing bad would happen because I can't imagine that headline being true. But I think the more I've engaged with media over the years, the more I think actually the more bizarre those headlines read, the better the news stories are, so they're more likely to happen. So I was thinking, okay, we've got this hurricane coming, which is very unusual for California, and I've never been in a hurricane before, I don't think. I've been in typhoons in Japan, but not a hurricane, and I didn't even really know what they were. Steve was trying to tell me, and then I thought, well, the more I know, the more I'm probably going to freak out. So I have a PTSD from an earthquake and tsunami in Japan back in 2011, and I've been working through a lot of that for the entire time that has elapsed since then, but I also kind of compounded that PTSD with the PTSD of being hit by a van, and I've had a lot to work through, And a lot of what has kind of worked for me is exposure therapy, but it is very hard to expose yourself to earthquakes and tsunamis, natural disasters, if you will. And so when one comes along, or like when there is a predicted natural disaster coming along, I felt like, well, now's my time to really lean in and, get my get my confidence up, build myself up a little bit. And I was just kind of contemplating, just out of self-preservation, what if at the same time that you're experiencing this hurricane for the first time, just consider the possibility there might also be an earthquake, because I always kind of have to prepare myself for that. I know California is a very seismic region, and I'd experienced lots of earthquakes before. I kind of chatted about this before, but I don't love to go there. But just for a bit of context, back when I worked and lived in Japan, I did experience a ton of earthquakes before the great big earthquake in 2011, but that one was so big and so, it just really like kind of altered the state of my brain in that moment, and I just never really was the same after that. Not to say that life was all bad, but I experienced just a bunch of symptoms of post-traumatic stress that kind of I would say like reared their ugly head in a million different ways. And it was actually very different. Like all the things that I would experience kind of changed in nature over time. And some things were getting worse because I wasn't dealing with them. And then some things kind of over time I learned to deal with, or completely healed. So right now I'm in a really, really good place. And I think it was a year and a half ago, whenever the last kind of bigger earthquake happened here, it's been a while, I had a new technique, like a new coping mechanism to try. And the first time I had done it, it worked like a charm. Usually if I'd experienced earthquakes, no matter how small they were here, I would be like in like a ton of panic. My whole fight or flight, kind of ignites. And then I just couldn't focus on anything, and it would really start to disturb me because I live on a higher level in an apartment building. And so I felt like I couldn't be in my apartment. I wanted to be on ground level, and I wanted to be away from windows or trees or large buildings, or so basically I wanted to go stand in an open field forever, which sounds crazy, but this is one of those things with PTSD that it's like, it's an uphill battle sometimes, just trying to set yourself back to neutral once you're so triggered into all of this. So unfortunately, because earthquakes aren't something you can really predict, or you don't have a lot of warning. Like we've known about this hurricane forming for a few days, and so people have this preparedness for some natural disasters, but with the earthquakes it's a little harder to grasp. So I always kind of expect that there might be one, and I've always thought that I'll heal as much as I can heal, but I don't really know how much that's going to be. And I hope it's a full kind of healing, just to go back to who I was before that 2011 disaster. And I'm not going to say I'm totally there. I'm really not. But I am so close to almost being there. It's not funny. And this is honestly like a bizarre thought, because I know how at the worst that I have been over since 2011, I got very agoraphobic. I didn't want to take any kind of public transport. I didn't even really want to be in a car for too long. I could if I could avoid driving on a certain, even now, I still kind of manage it this way, but like I don't drive close to any parked cars, just for some reason I can't do that. I don't want to do that. Some things, are a little harmless, and I don't try to fix them if they're not really getting in the way. But a lot of stuff did get in the way of me living what I would consider a pretty normal life before I'd experienced all those things. So one of the things that is a little prevalent still is that I just always have to have that consideration for like, what if it happens? Now, when I go to Australia, it's funny, I actually don't think about any of that, because to me, Australia isn't that seismic, and it's just so unlikely that it would happen that I think, oh, it's kind of a safe zone. In my head, I think, well, I don't have to worry. California, I think, well, we live on the San Andreas Fault, like, of course I have to worry. But then, funnily enough, in Japan, I don't worry as much, because I know that I know what happened afterwards. Like, I know how big that was, and I knew it's kind of vetted for me, right? Like, I think, well, I've been there, I've experienced it, it was all okay in the end. So, well, for me anyway. Unfortunately, that's not the case for everybody, but the way that registers in my head is that, like, even that is a safe zone. So it gets really tricky to deal with all of it. I'm sure you're loving this. No one asked for all this, but it just, the context factors into, I had every logical reason to prepare myself for that today. And it was just one of those things that I thought, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I can at least say it's unlikely, like, just because you're experiencing one natural disaster doesn't mean one's going to kind of, pile on top. And then I heard that it had downgraded, and I was looking for, what it was going to look like. And even now it's kind of windy. It's been raining all day, but I wouldn't categorize anything we've had today as even close to a storm. Just a rainy day, really, a rainy, windy day. But this afternoon we had an earthquake. Oh, it was a lot. I'm glad to say that because I had already kind of thought it was a possibility, I had already kind of told myself, well, if it happens like you did that time that it worked, I have to focus my eyes on something. The trick was I have to stop my brain from going straight to that place. Like, there's that neural pathway that's so worn out that goes straight to catastrophe. So, and my brain is very active, and it has such a creative ability to imagine the worst case scenario at any, just on a dime. I can just imagine it. So I have to stop my brain from going there, because once it's there, I can't pull myself back. Like, it's overwhelming. I feel like I'm in a panic. The adrenaline is pulsing through my veins, and it is very hard to pull myself back. And so usually you have to wait it out, and then it turns into days of worry and stress, and it becomes a whole thing. So it's been a long time since I've experienced that, and the last time that I did it, I was given this technique. I think I saw it online somewhere, or I was reading something about it. For years I've read about PTSD and different things I can try. So I've tried a bunch of things. Unfortunately, exposure therapy is a little bit more effective for me, which I don't like. I've tried some cognitive behavioral therapies as well, which were effective, but ultimately, I think ultimately my brain is just too active. It is so quick. The only thing that's really going to stop me is that I can get on top of my brain before it goes crazy. So to stop my brain from tracking, into all of the possible scenarios that might happen, I read that, or I heard somewhere, that if you focus your eyeballs, literally focus them on something, and you can't move your eyeballs off, you can't look away and then look back, you can't just kind of glance down or focus out your eyeballs, you have to just constantly stare at one thing. It stops your brain from, I don't know how it works, but you can't really be thinking about all the other stuff. It kind of focuses all your attention on that. And so it's hard for your brain to formulate all these other thoughts because you're just so intensely focusing on something. I think I've talked about this before, but it was very effective. And I stared at I have a Blue Yeti microphone that I use for voiceovers, and I stared at the Blue logo. It just says Blue on it. And I just stared at that constantly as I was experiencing the last earthquake that we had. And I was completely fine afterwards, and that just has not been the case since 2011. So I thought, well, not that I want to experience that again, but if I do, then this will be great. I didn't have days of panic. I didn't have, now I have to go and stand in an open field and just be safe. I wasn't, not getting any sleep because I was just so worried all night, or, prepping myself for evacuation. I had none of it. All the things that I had experienced before, or that I used to try and do to cope, I didn't have to, because I would just went on with my day after that. I was still a little shaken up because I still think about all of my memories, but it had almost no effect like it would have before. So today I got a chance to revisit that technique. And what's even funnier is, even since 2011, my body, I don't know how to describe this either, and I don't know if it's a physical thing. It feels physical, but it could just be mental. Sometimes I feel like my body is just kind of shaking and swaying, and so I will check. I'll check a water bottle, or I'll check something something on a pendulum, like a crystal that I have up there. I'll check to see if it's swinging or if it's moving, just to know, because sometimes I feel like if I think about it too much, my body actually, it kind of goes out in sympathy, and I think it's happening. So I checked that years ago. I honestly, since the last kind of successful time I had dealing with an earthquake, I have really not experienced a ton of these things since then. And so I mark that occasion as kind of the big breakthrough for me, which happened, I think, 10 years after I'm pretty sure it's 2021. It took 10 years to get to that point, which wish it didn't. So glad I got there though. And so for today, I actually just thought my body was swaying. And so I had kind of chalked it up to like, it's just me. Like I've actually gotten so used to thinking that I don't really give it too much thought. I just think, oh, my body thinks that's happening. And it wasn't until Steve came into the room and was like, are you okay? That I thought, oh, it's happening. Like even now that I'm talking about it, I actually feel like it's happening. I know it's not. I just have to check. We'll be filming this video. I'll be staring right at you for however long it takes to get over. But yeah, he came in and so he said that, and I was like, I can't even give. I mean, I want to respond to him, but I have to lock my eyes on something. Like I have to do it because I can't give my brain even a second to start contemplating what's going to happen next. So I had a Coke Zero can over there, and I just laser beamed right onto the Coke Zero logo. So I think it's going to be a whole logo thing for me. I'm going to be very in tune with these logos by the end of my life. But yeah, focused in on it. Steve was kind of there, which actually, like, it's so sad because it was comforting in a sense, but also it was distracting. And I was worried that, like, I also had to kind of contemplate, like, oh yeah, what if Steve needs help? Like, what if he gets upset, or like, which he wasn't, but I was just like, I need to do this for me just for now. Like maybe one day I can get into that new space of just not focusing on something. But I did it, and life went on, and it was a great day, and it has not sat with me the whole day. It hasn't registered as anything crazy like I need to go and be careful for. There was a time where I was kind of contemplating, like, is a bigger one coming? And I still keep that space, in my head, just because it's always a possibility. Like anything is a possibility, but it doesn't actually disturb me like it used to, and it doesn't take a hold of me and kind of hijack my day or my feelings or my emotional response to things or anything really. So I'm claiming today as like day 2, even though it's years apart from the last one, of this massive breakthrough that I've had for PTSD. And I know that's not the conversation you probably thought you were going to get today, but I just had to share it with you because I do share parts of this journey, and a lot of what I journal about in this book particularly is my struggle with that and how it has evolved over time, and how I have found ways to deal with things, and how when I fix one thing, like maybe another thing pops up, or when I fix one thing, it's all gone altogether and it just feels great, and I want to celebrate that. So I just wanted to share that little story with you today. Probably went the longest way about sharing it, but hopefully you're just here to relax, because that's what I'm doing. And that is that story. So the little piece that I'm drawing over here is my little retro kawaii stamp set from Virtual Voyage 6 bento box. I still have some open stock of those in my Etsy, but by the time you watch this, Etsy will be closed. The Etsy will probably reopen later in 2023. Like, I don't want to say it's going to open as soon as I get back. I'm trying not to say what I'm doing just in case for some reason my auntie watches this, but I don't think she's going to, because I'm going to surprise my auntie. And I'm going to Australia. I'll be on the plane or like at the airport by the time you're watching this. So fingers crossed for a really smooth journey. I'm really, really excited because this has all kind of just fit into the tiniest little window of opportunity. Basically, I've known for a while that this Halloween season, I'm going to be very busy starting September 11th, I think. And I wanted to push forward my virtual voyage because Steve actually has a whole bunch of overnight rehearsals, and he's starting his show season that gets really hectic around the holidays a little bit earlier than me. And so I knew that if I wanted Steve to help me with virtual voyage, I had to bring it forward because it's just kind of impossible when we're all going to be everywhere. So I brought that forward to the start of August, and we've just finished that and had a great time. But I knew I'd have this break between then and when I start Halloween. And for all intents and purposes, my business side of JLB Creative is going to kind of be a lot slower towards the end of the year. I don't really have anything like big business-wise planned. I'll reopen the store, and obviously we still do our Collage Club subscriptions, and we still keep all of our workshops available for people to purchase. But as far as like planning new workshops and stuff, like all of that is going to be 2024 stuff. So I'm on a nice kind of downward swing where a lot of what I'll be sharing is just a lot more casual. I'll be working on my Merry Mix Media, which is a free mini workshop for Christmas. So that gives me a lot of time to focus on that as well. But also just creating a lot of space for all the holiday work that I'll be taking on since I'm dancing again. Now, last year was my first experience doing that, but we didn't actually start until Christmas. So I didn't know what it was going to be like juggling all of that. And then, it kind of got to the end of February this year, like start of March, around that time. And all of that performance kind of stopped. And I've only been doing little special events here and there since then. So I auditioned a couple months ago for, I think it was maybe a month ago. I auditioned for this Halloween show at Knott's Berry Farm, and I got that. So I'm really excited to start that, but everything is kind of stacked like on top of that. So I'll be also in rehearsals to dance again at Christmas at Disneyland. At the same time, I'm kind of doing the Halloween stuff at Knott's Berry Farm. And then I was going to do Virtual Voyage. So it was literally going to go Virtual Voyage, Knott's Halloween, Disney, Christmas. But then I also, before the Halloween stuff, and at the same time that I was doing Virtual Voyage, I got these offers for a lot of these Disney special events. So we just did one for a Disney Junior play date that they had over the weekend, and that's what this little costume is for. I was dancing in a cavalcade, which is another word for parade, and that was over at California Adventure. If you have never been to these parks, there's two. So there's Disneyland, which is the original, and then there's Disney's California Adventure, and it's just across the Esplanade from each other. They're literally like just across from each other. In California Adventure, I think originally it's kind of like just a theme park themed around California, but obviously there's a lot of Disney intellectual property in there. Now it's a lot more Marvel and Pixar. You will see like a lot of that. But this was my first time dancing over on that side, and fun fact that I heard, that parade route is the second longest in the world. Not that that would mean anything to anyone who's not on the parade route, but I had never done that parade route before, and I was a little worried just because these days can be really hot in the middle of the day, and I just, you've got to pace yourself. Parades are a really intense physical kind of request on your body. I can't tell you too much, obviously, because I don't want to destroy any of the magic that is entertainment, but it can just be a really big physical toll on your body. So I was just a little nervous for that, and we'd done all our rehearsals and everything, and I thought it would be fine, and it was fine. I did make it, so it was great. But yeah, it was just a lot, and it was exciting because now I feel like I've kind of conquered a big accomplishment. I think the only one that's longer is Shanghai Disneyland. I think I heard this in a training. I'm not quite sure if these are all real facts or not, but I do know that it was quite a long time. And it depends on as well how quickly the parade moves. Like sometimes it can go a lot slower if you're trying to, like, I don't know, the pacing just kind of changes throughout the day. So yeah, it was nice and long. But I really, really enjoyed it. 100% would recommend, and would do it all over again. And that was just a special event. So the way that those work are, it's a couple of rehearsals and then you go and do it. Usually you rehearse overnight to go and, get everything sorted and make sure you know what you're doing. And then you go and do the day and then it's finished. So it can be a lot of learning quickly. And then it's like you only need to perform it a few times or maybe even once. And then it's finished. You just forget it. It never existed after that. It's just a distant memory at that point. And I really love all the special events. I feel like it's just a really special thing to be able to do. So I really do love to be a part of them, but they are like a whole different ball game. So I kind of like everything. I'm greedy. I always say I'm like a greedy dancer. I'll do anything and I want to do everything. But this has been something that I've been doing since July. We did the 68th birthday event, and then this Disney Junior Playdate, and now I have another event coming up this week, which will already be finished by the time you see this video, but that just means I'm kind of stacking on all of these things. So I think about, I don't know, just before, maybe 3 weeks ago, I figured, okay, I've got all the events settled, like I've got all the dates, and then I've got all the dates for the rehearsals of everything that's going to happen start September 11th, and I just saw this tiny window of opportunity, and I thought, if I don't go home now, I won't make it home until next year, and who knows what's going to start next year, because if I am doing these parades, and you can't just leave for a bunch of time, like it's just not that easy. So I figured this will be my last chance to go home before things may or may not get confusing and crazy with my schedule. Unfortunately, Steve is already busy, so he can't come, but I found some cheap flights, and I'm going to be going home on the day you watch this, or Friday. If you're watching it in the future, I'll probably already be there. Go check my Instagram to see what I'm up to. But I found this window of opportunity and I took it, and I'm very, very excited. So essentially, I have a big week of trying to get everything wrapped up, like Collage Club and Art Snacks and YouTube videos and all the things I need to get done before I go, because I'll go on my holiday, have a lovely time with my family, and then come back. And as soon as I come back, like literally the next day, I start rehearsals for Halloween, and that is going to be like that whole week. Like it's just going to be a lot, so I won't really have a lot of time to kind of reset myself and figure everything out. So I need to be very prepared, and I'm going to take this week to do that. And that's really everything. I'm glad I got all of that in. Luckily, this was a really slow and boring, long video, so I could tell you all my stories. So I wanted to make sure you also knew what I was doing. The best way to always figure out what I'm doing is to be on Instagram, because I'm always posting over there. I used to post daily. I'm not that good anymore, but I do post very, very often. So hopefully you always see what's kind of going on. And especially when I'm in Australia, I love to post in my little stories and save the highlights just for holiday, and just love to show you what I'm getting up to. But it's going to be very family based. Like I'm not doing anything kind of crazy or exciting. I will literally just be walking around the beach and playing with the children. So get to be an uncle for a couple of weeks and enjoy that. And I'm very, very excited and very happy, and I can't wait, because the holidays, I just love the holidays, but I just love dancing as well, and it's just going to be so much of so much. I pray my body keeps it all together and we don't have any injuries, touch wood, keep safe from all these possible potential natural disasters that I'm getting a lot better at dealing with. And that's it. I'm trying to time this perfectly so that I finish when this finishes, which I think I've got 18 seconds left to go. Thank you so much for watching this. You're going to be seeing a lot of this Hobonichi 5 year, because I really want to get it finished by the end of the year so I can square it all up and get my new one started in 2024. But until then, bye.